emails if you have any questions about that. Now, here's one of the other things that I ran into when I was installing cameras, that sometimes those darn power cords aren't quite long enough to reach where you want to put your cameras. And so then, you got to get an extension cord to reach, and then you got an extension cord sitting out in the middle. It's not as easy to do if you want to put your camera up high, but your power outlet is down below, and you want to put your camera up at like 8 or 10 feet. Well, the power cords on the cameras are, what are they, 6 foot maybe?
5.
They're only 5 feet. So it kind of gets to be a little bit of a pain if you don't have an outlet up there, but you want to put it up like on your mantle or up on the top of a bookshelf. Well, you can either get yourself an extension cord and plug it in and then have the cord hanging, and it's about 2 foot off the ground where it's hanging. Or we've got some other options, and I know, Dino, you had some options to show them for the for power extension cables that you can get fairly inexpensively. So why don't you kind of touch on that you found there?
Okay. Share this again here. So let's see. You need to zoom in on that one again?
Yeah, I probably will here. There we go.
Okay, so first off with the cameras, the indoor cameras and the outdoor cameras. There's only 2 types of power cords that they currently have right now, and the 2 indoor cameras use a 5-volt connection. So that's the end, the size of the end down on the bottom. So they're 5 volts. And then the outdoor cameras use a 12 volt. So really what you need to look for is the 12 and the 5 when you're looking for the extensions. And Tony pointed these out too. This one happens to be the 12 volt. So this would be for the outdoor cameras. So the outdoor cameras have the 12 volt, and they come in different sections, 10, 20, and 30 feet. Cool things about these is you don't necessarily have to pay an electrician. So maybe you want to put one out, put it up in your eave. A homeowner can easily, or you can help them as long as you tape these ends together so they don't fall apart, but you can run it in the siding, pull the siding out a little bit, the plastic siding or the vinyl siding, run it along that, or even put little clips up, run it like coaxial cable on the outside of the house. Make it look nice, obviously, but you don't have to have an electrician come out, punch holes in the walls, go up and put in a big power box and all that to get to power. You can run one of these adapters for the power and then use Wi-Fi. And they come in white or black. Just really depends, if you want the white for outside, power's outside, camera's out, anything, whatever, white or black. And this is an example again, not the one you have to buy, but an example of one, the 12 volt. And if we go back, let's see, this is the 5. So again, if you look down here, it's kind of hard to tell, but that is a smaller end.
Yeah,
so it's a 5 volt.
That one fits the indoor cameras, and the other one fits the outdoor camera.
Correct. Yep, 12 volt and 5 volt.
Gotcha. And they're, if you look on Amazon they've got some deals sometimes on them where you can get a pack of 2 for, half price or, whatever. This is just an example, but as you can see, look in the description, these are designed for this actual purpose, a 12 volt power adapter and the 5 volt power adapter. So you can just plug it in. I recommend maybe putting a little strip of electrical tape around it so it can't pull apart. And now you've got, an extended power cable that can reach wherever you want to put your cameras. So it's just a little bit more aesthetically pleasing than maybe running an extension cord that can't be hidden as well and that kind of stuff. So
you can always do the poor man's clamp, as we call it. On some of these cables, you can take like bread ties if you just don't have electrical tape with you temporarily. I still go with electrical tape, but you can take a bread tie, tie it around the one end, go across the other end, and tie it around the other end, and that'll keep it together too until you can get some tape. But at least you can have it up and running and not worry about it falling apart until you get electrical tape.
Perfect. So just another extra tip for people, that it's, I guess tonight's a blog and a camera night. But the other, one of the other things that gets brought up, Dino, is I get it from a few people who are more high-end technical level, and they're asking if our cameras are PoE. And at first I didn't know what that meant, so I had to look it up. What does PoE mean? So Dino, what does PoE mean? What does that stand for?
Power over Ethernet. And it's usually capital P, lowercase o, capital E. So literally power over Ethernet. All you're really doing is piggybacking a power source on a Ethernet cable or a network cable.
Okay.
So most of us know them as Cat5 cables or network cable or a patch cable.
And that's not a new technology, just so people know. That's a lot of cameras previous, that's what they would run. So you didn't need to plug the camera in if you were willing to hardwire it with a Cat5 cable, which is a fancy word for the computer cable. I mean, and Dino's going to show you what a Cat5 cable is or Cat6 cable, because some people don't know what that means. So you have the option to pull that up. Let me am here.
Let me know when you got the next one.
Go here. Uh-oh. Who's this?
Jason?
Yeah.
I think he hopped on the webinar.
Oh, okay.
He's in his car.
Gotta hide his video. Hold on. Hide his video. Move it. Go. There we go. All right, now we've just got a side-by-side view of you and your camera, your mobile cam. So
Okay.
Power over Ethernet gives people the option, if they're wanting to hardwire their cameras instead of running them off Wi-Fi. One of the options with Power over Ethernet is that the camera doesn't need to be plugged into an outlet. All it needs to be plugged into is a Cat5 cable. So can you show them what a Cat5 cable is, Dean?
Yep. So right here, just so we go into it, everybody knows, you've seen them, multicolors, however they go. And some people like me can be really picky about colors, so we won't go into that whole detail. But Cat5 cable is really nothing more than, like you can see here, the network cable. There's the common ones are the RJ11 and RJ45 for the ends. That's how they're defined, and it's just really the number of wires that are in the end. RJ11 is the old stuff that we all know, telephones. So if you've ever had a hardwired telephone, you actually dealt with RJ11 cable or phone cables called RJ11.
So for the fifth graders out there like myself, computer cable, the thing that plugs from your router to your computer. And if you notice, every one of our cameras has a port to where you can plug in a computer cable. Both the outdoor camera has it on that end there. It's got that spot to plug in a Cat5 or a Cat6. And then the indoor cameras both have a port on the back of them to where you can plug in a cable. Now, some cameras out there in the industry, they have the power built right into that. Ours do not, but what Dean has come up with is an option. If you have somebody that absolutely has to have power over Ethernet because they don't maybe have power out where they want to put the cable or want to put the camera, well, now if you have one of these adapters that Dean's going to show you, the only thing they need to do is have this cable, the Cat5 cable, run out. Maybe it's outdoors or out to a shed to where, they don't have a power source. Well, they can hardwire using a Cat5 cable in, and they can power it through that Cat5 cable. So explain how that power over Ethernet works. You have to have a special router or some other options available, correct?
Yep. So the first one that we have is actually just it's a power over Ethernet hub, or sometimes it could be managed switches. You can get really technical terms, but just think of it as a hub. All you're doing is a way to combine cables and combine power. So what this little hub is doing, for lack of better terms, is taking my network signal. So it's tied into my network on the right-hand side. It's got its own plug.
So when you say network, you're talking about what people would call their internet, right?
Internet, yep. Internet, you're going out to the world, connecting to everybody else, going into your internet.
So that plug goes back to your router for your network, correct, somewhere?
Yep, now you're going to see a lot of messy stuff, but all the way over to my primary router.
Okay, so that's your primary router, Wi-Fi, and all that kind of stuff your computer's connected to. You're just
Yep.
taking one of those ports and running it to this new hub, basically. They call it a switch or a hub or whatever, but it's basically so now you can extend out and extend the internet out to your cameras. But this box here does one thing special, and what is that, Dean?
It takes the power, an actual power that's plugged right into any kind of source, your outlet, whether you have it on a surge strip or if you have it on a power bank. But it takes and combines the power, actual physical 110 power, or yes, 110, 120 volt, whatever power coming in, and then it converts it down to a 5 volt or a 12 volt signal based on where it's going. So
Okay.
that's what this box is actually doing, is managing the amount of power coming in to power the devices, and it combines the outside world or the internet signal on the same cable. So now they're both running, power and internet are running along these cables all the way down to the adapters, and the adapters are just a fancy term for taking the cable and breaking it back out again. So again, now we've got the other end of the Ethernet cable or the network cable, and it's just plugged into the adapter box. And on the other end of the adapter box, it separates out the power and the network or the world, your internet signal.
Okay.
Separates them back out and runs them up to the back of the camera, where you've got power.
So it's basically just a splitter. It's splitting the internet signal and the power signal back to where we need it to run our cameras.
Correct. So it's just taking one cable instead of a power and a network cable, running all the distance that you need them to go and putting them into one.
So for instance,
time and money.
For instance, this camera is going into a place where you have no outlet to plug it into. Does not matter. As long as you're willing to run a Cat5 cable, that's the only cable you will have to run. You don't have to find a power source and connect it to Wi-Fi. You're hardwiring it in and connecting it to power with one cable.
Correct.
And so that splitter, now that one you have there is a 5 volt. And it states that on the adapter. Obviously, the plug size is different.
Yep. So if I go look at the back of this one, tells you, sorry, my light's a little bit goofy here.
Oh, I can see it, yeah.
It is a 5 volt, 10 watt. And that's actually what our cameras, this indoor camera actually is a 5 volt. And I think it'll go up to 12 watts, but it is a 10 watt camera and it runs just fine on that. And then the other one, same, this is the black cable that comes around from the switch, the PoE adapter over in.
Now here's a question I have for you, Dean.
Mm-hmm.
That switch that you have is running both 5 volts and 12 volts?
Yes.
Is there a way that you tell it what voltage is running on it, or does it automatically know what you need?
It actually just pushes the same amount of power out, and then the adapter is what decides the level it goes to the camera.
Okay, so the adapter is actually taking whatever voltage it's receiving and reducing it down to 12 or 5 volts.
So it doesn't burn out the device on the other end.
Gotcha. Yep. So the PoE routers are all just standard. You don't have to get a 5 volt PoE router or a 12 volt.
Nope.
Okay.
Just got to get one that'll do it. And that's because not all internet devices are created equal, or IT devices. So they usually put the wattage on the opposite end or the adapter end, so you can just have one switch pushing out power to everybody and then multiple devices connected.
And so that adapter you have there, once again, it's taking that Cat5 cable that is now running both power and internet, and now it splits it to where you've got internet coming out on the Cat5 side and you've got power coming out on the power adapter.
Yep, and it comes up and goes to one of the outdoor cameras.
And this is the perfect example of where I will need this is, an outdoor camera. The old farmhouse that I've got in North Dakota, there are no power outlets outside. So I either have to punch a hole through the wall to run a power into an outlet inside the house, or I can just run this Cat5 cable. And how long, is there a limit on how long of a cable you can have?
This specific Netgear PoE adapter or switch that I bought says it'll do 325 feet. So the longest that I've ever seen one hooked up is we have TVs in our office, so the 325 feet is running 7 TVs off from one switch, because on that specific one, your main input is port 8, and then the 7 other ones are running the TVs. So it's a little different than this one. This one's primary input is just by itself for data, and then the power combines onto the 4 that go out.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Now, I know you showed me something earlier. Let's say somebody doesn't want to go out and buy one of these PoE hubs. Is there an option, like say, for instance, out at the farm there, I only really need one of those cameras to have power over Ethernet, and that's what that thing is.
Yep. This one, you can find these on Amazon too. You can get them anywhere, but Amazon seems to be the go-to place for a lot of people for shipping. But it's just this is more of what you would call a PoE injector. So instead of having a switch managing it or the hub managing the power for the different ports, this one is just injecting power into an already Ethernet signal somewhere sitting, or a cable going somewhere.
So show me what you plug that into.
So then on the back side, first off, just a wall outlet, any wall outlet. It's got to be next to or close to where a network cable can come to it. So let's just pretend on the left side of my house, I have a Ethernet cable coming, and I just have it sitting, because that's happened to be where it's at. I have it sitting close enough to where this can plug into a power outlet. I put the data in here. The power is then combined into the other side. This cable would then go out and go to a camera. So this is really meant to be like an injector, or it goes in the middle of something. So you can even put it right next to, if they have a power jack and then an Ethernet jack or your network jack in your house, you can put it right next to it, run a real short, like a 2-foot cable into this, and then however long of a cable out to the device you want to hook up to it.
Okay, so I can just do a one-off if I don't need 4 cameras powered over Ethernet. If I just got the one that reaches outside, I can plug this in right next to my router, run a short cable from my router to the input, and now the output ends up becoming powered. So then I power it to that splitter on the other end that you have on your cameras.
Yep.
And so now basically I eliminate the need of a power source out by the camera. I just run the power source through the Cat5 cable, and then that splitter now splits it off into the camera.
Yep. So this is basically just a one-port version of a switch.
Of that. Okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
This just puts the power into the plug. There's a little light that lights up here too when it's got power on it. So you still need the adapter to tear the power back off from the network signal and push out to the device.
Yeah, so you still need that splitter out at the camera, wherever the camera's at.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Exactly. And that was my shot of trying to show you they're actually, they're live, they're working, they're running just fine, just sitting here on my desk.
Okay, and they don't have a power pack plugged into them. Those are using those splitters. So the only thing that's going to that is that Cat5 cable. Yep,
it's the only thing that's running to them.
So
Cat5 goes right to these two here.
So what that is, so if people are looking for a PoE camera, or you have an option to power over Ethernet with that adapter, that's pretty cool. Now, where do you find those splitter things, those Ethernet splitters? Can you get those on Amazon as well?
Yep. I'm going to set that down, and I will switch back again to this, Tony, if you want. And share. See my screen again?
Yep.
Okay. And again, I can send some of these to people, links if they want to, or we can post them somewhere. These are just some of the ones that I found, and that's the ones that I'm actually using. This is the 12-volt up top. It's just a PoE splitter. So all it's doing is it's tearing off the power signal from the piggyback of the network signal, and then puts it back out to the devices. So it's just some kind of off-brand.
That's the 12-volt one, and then I see you got the 5-volt one down below there as well.
Here's the 5-volt one. So when you click on it, it'll tell you as well if you hover over them. There you go, 5-volt, 10 amps. And it's always good, to know what type of a device you're plugging into. So, and over here on the right, this specific one has all kinds of different outfits that you can add in that do the exact same thing. Just different styles and designs. So you can, and it doesn't just have to be our adapters. It could be an Alexa, it could be a Dot, it could be whatever. Like this one, I think is the it comes with multiple USB and/or mini USB mini, so you can use them for a lot of stuff.
Gotcha. Cool.
And one other one, real quick. This is a different version of that one I showed you, the injector. All this is going to do is take and put power to it too as well. It's just a different style with a longer plug.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yep. They just call them injectors. So.
Is that a kit where it has the injector and the splitter both in one package?
All together in one. And this happens to be a 12 volt.
Oh, how much is that?
So that's $19.95.
So $20. You get the splitter and the power adapter.
Yep.
To turn any Cat5 cable into a PoE able for your cameras.
Right. And then this is just the 12 volt one, just showing you both. So essentially this one. Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, I'm going to peruse the page here and see if there's any questions. I don't see any. Everybody's just saying great job, good stuff, good information. Hey, Everett's on here. How you doing, Everett?
Everett. I pulled up a picture too if people are curious about the difference between Cat5 and Cat6. Not too much geek speak, but basically it's the insulation and how they're twisted, so you have less data packet loss or less. Your internet stays more stable.
Less interference. It'll pick up less interference from electrical devices and things like that.
Exactly.
Gotcha. So Cat6 is probably a little more expensive, but it's got less interference.
And for our cameras, Cat5e, that one's fine. No need to go to Cat6 unless you really want to. Probably better for outside, but Cat5, Cat5e, they're just fine.
Perfect. All right. Well, I do have to say, Dino, this was a very educational, not only for everybody else, because I know it's educational for me. So it's a lot of education. We probably got some people that might be, oh, this is too much, confused. Well, guess what? At least you know you can get a hold of somebody that has those answers, because if none of us have the answer, we can always find Dino and he'll find the answers. So anyway, I appreciate you taking the time, Dean. I know taking a half hour out of your day is probably a lot because you're always busy. So
we're all busy.
We're all busy.
Yep.
So anyway, that's just some tech tips from Dino in Fargo, North Dakota.